It was great to hear that perspective and great to hear about a company that's being proactive and really nice to see. As far as I'm just going to talk about banking in general, nothing specific to the institution where I work, but just my experience in banking in this area. And as far as what we've seen in this market, banking really started to take the turn probably early 2007 to 2006. As far as credit's no longer working. The models aren't working anymore. A lot of banking, a lot of economic growth is pushed by jobs. The job growth was stopping. The housing market was starting to slow down, and some of the land development loans were no longer working. So that was starting to come late 2006, early 2007. Also increased regulatory scrutiny was starting with that. So you could kind of see the slowdown starting quite a while ago. And so the bank's been preparing for this, and the regulators are prepared for this. So it's not something completely new, as Pat was saying. The measure of risk, banks basically measure risk. They buy deposits, and basically they're borrowing money from the depositors to lend to others, and then they try to keep a piece of the risk. And risk had been pretty much priced out of a lot of lending for quite a while. And that risk premium is starting to come back. That's when deals start going bad, you really see the actual risk premium that you probably should have been charging for quite a while. The London interbank offering rate, that's probably something you've been hearing about lately. It's been kind of the bank rate or the interest rate that's been used internationally. And I think the reason it's really important to us is 50% of the adjustable rate mortgages in the U.S. are priced off of LIBOR. So when we started getting these ARMs and we started getting these products, adjustable rate products to get people into houses, then they see their rates start going up. It's going to be tied to this LIBOR rate. And what's happened is recently, especially with the current meltdown that just happened in September that Pat was talking about, is this LIBOR rate is really spiking up. And if you look at it, that's happened just in a few weeks. It's not something that's happened over a long period of time. There's a lot of variability there, but it's really happening over a really short period of time. So that's going to increase the pressure on homeowners as far as their interest rates and what they're going to have to pay for their houses and what they're going to have to pay to stay in their houses. Bank leverage. The U.S. banks typically are less levered than the European banks. U.S. banks have an average, they loan 96 cents in loans to every dollar in deposits, whereas the European bank has about $1.40 in euro to every dollar in deposits. So you see, like almost all banks in Iceland, they've failed. A lot of it's interbank lending. There's a lot of European banks that are under extreme stress. There are some U.S. banks too that have been under stress and will be. They've had a lot larger loan losses recently, so they've lost a lot of their capital. So that's what's causing a lot of the failures, the high leverage. And when they have this high leverage, they're reliant on that LIBOR to borrow from other banks to fund that leverage. And that's going to show in this next slide here. Basically what this slide is showing is the difference between the Treasury bill rates. This is called the TED index, and it shows risk, interbank lending risk. And so it's the Treasury rate compared to the LIBOR that we talked about before. And so you can see this huge spike. And what this is saying is banks are no longer comfortable with the risk of lending to other banks. And so this is the liquidity crisis right here. It kind of shows the graphic. They're saying, we no longer trust you to pay us back. We don't know what kind of securities you have. We don't know what kind of loans you have. So there's a lot of bidding up of loans and credit between the banks. So what that means for us is we have The credit standards are tightening for both consumers and for businesses, and this has been happening over a period of time. It's been happening probably the last 2 or 3 months. Also, credits can be harder to obtain, especially if you want to get a home loan. With asset values decreasing, houses are decreasing in value, it's harder to get a home loan. Also, probably cars and credit cards are where I see probably the next problems occurring. Because people, if you're underwater in a house, you can walk away from your house. You have to stay in your car to get to your job. So people are going to go to their jobs. Let's see what else. In larger banks, probably 5 or 6 months ago, started cutting off the home equity lines of credit. So you can see a lot of tightening credit now. Reducing leverage. I think Pat talked about deleveraging the system and how that's happening. It actually started happening just this last quarter. Consumer installment and revolving debt reduced for the first time in 10 years. So people will stop lending money or borrowing money. Banks will stop lending money, but what that does is it reduces economic activity. And so that's ultimately, I think, what's driving the stock markets now is there's a lower expectation of economic growth. And, we just don't know where that's going to go right now. And as far as the bank, as far as, getting money now from a bank more or less looks at it as cash is king. So if you have a lot of cash in your statement